on this episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists.
What we'd like to do from an Orapharma perspective is we'd like to have as much education as possible. And we like to make sure that hygienists are comfortable calling periodontal disease what it is. It's an infection, and we have to make sure that we treat it urgently and proactively. We don't want to see that wait. We don't want to wait and see what's going on 6 months later. We know how to communicate it. Be confident about it. Talk about it. It's okay if a patient says no, that's okay. But guess what? You can go home at night and lay your head on the pillow because you know that you talked to that patient about everything to get them as healthy as possible. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to build that confidence, that partnership between hygienists and patients, and just really get them comfortable and confident. Lead without authority.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists podcast, episode number 473. I'm your host, Andrew Johnston, and thank you so much for tuning in today. So in this episode, I think my focus, what I really wanted to try to do was give you a new resource, or maybe new for many of you, for education. And it's called the Oracademy. And so I invited my friend Jessica Giebel on, who works at Orapharma, to talk about kind of the ins and outs of what it is and what you can expect. And to be clear, this is not a sponsored episode. And while there is some corporate affiliation, I felt it really more important to share this particular coursework for you because the courses that they're offered are directly related to things that the hygienists do every day. So it's very perio-focused, it's very communications-focused, it's patient-centric, it's getting patients to understand their own health and disease. There's some key phrases, there's statistics, there's outlines, there's so much more that will help you help your patients get healthier. And so I think it was really important to bring to you. Now, I say newish, but really this came out last year. And if you're listening to this in the future, it came out in 2024. And you might actually hear on the episode that we recorded this at RDH Under One Roof. So like always, I apologize about a little bit of the background noise that you might hear. It's a wonderful episode. And thank you so much to Jess for her time recording with us. Now, next week, we have another great episode coming your way with Anjali Avis. And we talk about the many places in dentistry that we can use our dental knowledge, our dental skills that we've acquired over time that might not be the most traditional of places. So make sure you hit that follow button on your podcast app. You're not going to want to miss that one. And then we also have part 3 to our ADHA saga coming out very soon. And in that one, I address a key topic that the ADHA wanted to highlight, the benefits of the association. But are they really benefits? I talk about what more we could be doing and where do hygienists really find value today that maybe is different than what we found value in years past. So stay tuned for that one to drop in the next few weeks. And with that, on to the episode.
A tale of two hygienists.
All right, listeners, welcome to the interview portion of the podcast, joined today by Jessica. Thank you for being here.
Thank
Jess,
you.
What do you want to be called?
Jess is good.
Jess.
Usually
By
Jess.
the way, that does go weird.
I know.
All right. So Jess,
everybody goes with Jess.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for this opportunity.
I'm excited to talk about education for dental hygienists. I'm excited to explore different avenues that probably they don't know about quite yet. But before we get into that, I think it's really important that people understand who you are and kind of like what you've done with like your career and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I have been a hygienist for 21 years. Yay. So it's my number one passion. It's my first love. I originally went into it because I was like, I don't want to work weekends and I don't want to work nights and I don't, because I was thinking about nursing at first. So
Sure.
I'm like, I don't want to work holidays. I want to, and it's such a great profession. Once you really get into it, it's amazing. The amount of opportunities we get, patient care, how we can help families, like we can take care of our families. It's just such an amazing profession. And so I just ran with it. Once I got my license, I actually ended up moving to Indiana, got my license there as well, practiced there for about 2.5 years, moved back home to Ohio, and then I worked at an office for about 12 to 13 years, and I was the lead hygienist there, and it was so great just being able to lead a team of 3 or 4 different hygienists that we had. And it was so awesome to be able to get all of our differences, but we all came together as a group.
Right.
And that was really, really great. So did that. And then I ended up going to another office for about 2 years and worked there and just helped with building out the periodontal program there, the periodontal protocols, and then ended up working with Orapharma. So
I want to go back to something you said. Yeah, I've seen a lot of hygienists from a lot of different places. We've done a lot of interviews when I was working down in Florida at the DSO. We got a lot of people from the Ohio, Indiana area, like that part of the country. Surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, but I would say like, you just don't realize how intelligent people from Ohio are. I'm so sorry. That didn't come out nearly right. But I'll tell you what, after some of the Pacific Northwest and maybe, I don't know, Wisconsin, Ohio, good for you.
Ohio.
Producing people like you. That's great.
I know. Isn't that crazy?
No, all jokes aside, though, I've been very impressed by people from Ohio. I don't know. Do you guys have like a higher standard for like education? Like what's going on there?
I would say, I honestly, I don't know because there are some courses and some hygiene schools that are 2 years, but then there are quite a few that are 4 years. So we have Ohio State, that's a 4-year.
Yeah.
I went to Lakeland Community College in Mentor, and that was a 2-year, but I really think it's about the director of those programs.
It really is.
And just how much passion they have. And I can say our director, and she was amazing. She took all of us under her wing. There were only 12 people allowed in each class every year. So we had to go through a very rigorous screening and things like that. And our, your transcripts from high school and things. And she just took us under her wing and she taught us everything she knew. And I can say, I owe a lot to her.
I love
for
that.
Everywhere. For where I'm at now.
I feel the same way about some of our
junior
year coordinator, but who end up being the program director as well. That's awesome.
I think that's a big deal. So
tell me, before we get into the rest of the stuff, tell me a little bit more about like your career with Orapharma. Like where did you start? Kind of, has it evolved? Where are you at now? What are you doing?
Yeah. So started out as a territory manager for Orapharma in the Cleveland area. And it was totally different world, like going from, hygiene and patient care. And then you're like, boom, right in sales, right? So eye-opening, such a great learning experience. It's really propelled my career in so many different aspects. So did that for 6 years. And then the opportunity for professional education manager came up. And I was like, I'm going to go for it. Like, what do I have? What do I have to lose? I love my job as a sales rep. So if I don't get it, I'm still going to love my job. But I'm like, let's try it and see. And, I felt like I've had enough education over the years, enough opportunity that I was like, let's do it. So got it. And now not looking back.
It's got to be fun with doing what you do.
It's fun.
I mean, you get to meet a lot of really awesome people.
It's so fun.
And like, hey, let's go learn some stuff.
Yeah, it really is.
But here's the thing, though. I also want to just quickly throw out a compliment. Like Orapharma does do a good job of hiring hygienists to do a lot of different roles. I think that they're one of the like more inclusive companies when it comes to not looking down, their nose at like what an RDH can do.
Yeah.
So, but having said like how great hygienists are, there's definitely some gaps in our training. So I kind of want to dive into your thoughts on, what are you saying? Where are we at with the gaps in our training?
Yeah. So I think that it's all about being able to communicate, right? We need to communicate with our patients. We have to get that confidence in communicating with our patients. And we don't learn that in school.
Right.
We learn so many different things. And it's, especially if you're doing a 2-year program, it's boom, boom, boom. You don't have the time. And it's really, hey, go out in the world and figure it out,
Yeah.
So what we'd like to do from an Orapharma perspective is we'd like to have as much education as possible.
Right.
And we like to make sure that hygienists are comfortable calling periodontal disease what it is. It's an infection. And we have to make sure that we treat it urgently and proactively. We don't want to see that wait. We don't want to wait and see what's going on 6 months later. So I think that just, having the conversation with your patients of, you have gum disease and it's okay. And we're here to help you. So I feel like sometimes that's a gap. Even when I was working, like I was saying with my offices and leading teams of hygienists, some people felt really comfortable, some people didn't. So it's okay, how do we get that gap filled? Also too, educating patients on the facts. So, we have to make sure patients understand. And I think sometimes, we sometimes feel like we have zero time in our appointments. Yeah. And it's like, it's
or sometimes legitimately we have zero time.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're overburdened, but yes.
Yeah, your next patient's here, you're running behind,
exactly.
You have, you're 40 minutes behind, you're waiting on the doctor. And so it's just, it's so important to just make sure we get that education part first for our patients so that they understand the treatment that they need. And then just making sure we assess at every appointment sometimes I feel like if you are running behind, it's like, oh, yeah,
Skip the assessment phase.
it looked really good last time.
They're
so
pretty much the same.
And we want to make sure that we empower hygienists to the point where, hey, I'm comfortable and I need to do this. This is what we need to do to get our patients as healthy as possible.
I like the model because like I've seen it in different offices where they're like, look, we're not even going to touch the scaler until we've had a conversation about education. Can't start educating you until I do my assessments. So I need you to hang out for a little bit. I'm going to do these assessments. And then I'm going to sit down right here. We're going to have a conversation about this. And I think it's more beneficial to have like a sit down eyeball to eyeball conversation as opposed to, hey, I'm going to go ahead and start working now. Just keep listening to me as they're waiting for the next pain spot to, flare up.
Right.
And just, they're so distracted and they just don't even listen to any of the education piece. I think I've seen the ones that have done that have been super successful comparatively.
Well, and as long as you communicate with your patient effectively, they're going to understand your reasoning for doing it, but the confidence to have to really manage the appointment and to be in charge of that time that you have with them, guiding your patient through it. What's Orapharma doing to deliver this education to hygienists?
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate both of your points of, we want to make sure that we're establishing clear protocols, as hygienists, I mean, not from an Orapharma perspective, but make sure we have clear protocols to be able to diagnose and get that sense of urgency. But I feel like another gap too could be that, are we really treating the root cause of periodontal disease?
Right.
It's kind of like we have to realize that once they leave our chair, we still have a continuum of care, right? We don't want to just scale and replane and then, okay, bye, see you in 6 months or 3 months or whatever that looks like. But no, you're on a journey now and you're on a journey to health and I'm here to help you with that. So that's really what we're trying to do from an Orapharma perspective.
Do you feel that the hygienist doesn't understand their own education enough to be able to convey that to the patient? Or do you feel that they're just too scared to convey that information to the patient?
I would say they probably feel like they're maybe not too scared. I don't want to use the word scared, but just to the point of being confident enough. Or is this person really going to believe what I'm saying? Because I remember when I first graduated, or even, 5 years in, I'm like, I felt really confident with some patients I didn't. There's different patient types and different ways you can educate patients.
Sure.
But I think it's maybe a little bit of both. I think from a perio maintenance perspective, at least the hygiene school when I was in it 20-some years ago. We're not going to talk about that. No. But we never talked about what perio maintenance. I mean, we did. It was part of our perio section for 16 weeks. But nobody ever explained to us how to explain it to a patient.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is what a perio maintenance is. But nobody said, okay, this is your journey. Once a patient has scaling and replaning, we need to be on this continuum.
Oh, you're right. You're right. And I think, not that we have to justify perio maintenance to any of our patients, if we are explaining it properly, to begin with. But you're right. It always kind of feels like we're lacking words to explain this journey.
And to your point, to really call it what it is and treating the infection, but us believing in it ourselves is going to, and then it's going to come over so much more authentically when we're explaining it. But I think a lot of us, do we really believe in what we do?
Right.
Yeah. And if we are hesitant to really have the confidence to understand that without us, the bad news is their disease process is going to progress.
Correct.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to feel bad about when you're communicating what, like you said, call it what it is.
Yeah.
Treat the infection and communicate. So Orapharma is empowering hygienists to do this. How?
We are. So we have multiple educational resources to use. So we actually launched at RDH this time here on Thursday, the Hygienist Battle Plan. And what that is, it's the 3 Ps of periodontal care. So it's your patient, it's your prognosis, and then it's your planning. So let's talk patient first. What type of patient do we have in the chair? What do they have? How are we going to treat it? Mm-hmm. You have your prognosis. Okay, now what do they have? Let's talk about how we're going to treat that as well. Your planning. These are the next steps. This is our protocol. This is what we're going to use. So what it is it really just helps hygienists become confident in how they communicate that to their patients. We're not telling them what to do, but we're telling them maybe
giving them
tips and tricks.
I mean, this is and which is so much easier. Someone can show me the way. I'll be happy to do it.
Right.
And especially a way that's proven. That thousands and thousands of hygienists have already done before.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We also have a new online course. So it's a new online educational resource called Oracademy. So every month we have new content, not different content, but it's new. We just keep adding to it. And what it is there's a hygiene curriculum on there. So there's 3 levels of, one is just kind of going back to basics. What is periodontal disease? Let's kind of get back to that basic area of it. Second one is communication. So now how do we communicate it? Third one is operationalization. So how do we incorporate this into our everyday? And that's really great. You get a badge after you complete it. So that's really fun. But there's also other quick videos. And again, these are very short videos because nobody wants to sit there and listen to a 25-minute video. But these are 5 to 7 minute videos of just different tips and tricks that you feel, hey, maybe you know what? I need some more education on that. Yeah, I could use that in my office. So we have that as well. Webinars. We have a full cadence of webinars.
You guys know that I just have ADHD. All of us do. And you're like, okay, more than 7 minutes, like we're done. Like we're already checked out. So
it's
good
digestible.
call on that one.
Yes.
Good call.
Thank you.
And then we have a cadence of like monthly webinars, different educational resources that you can get from your territory managers in the area. And then also we're going to be working on some communication. So we have a new patient communication roadmap that that's going to be coming out here within the next few months. And it really brings you on that journey of initial to what does that continuum of care look like? So we're excited.
So how should an office utilize this? Is this are we using this in our morning huddles, or are we using this, collaborative? Like where's the best case scenario for this?
Yeah. So what it does is it's just going to enable dentists and hygienists to just better understand that critical need and urgency for managing periodontal disease for their patients. We know, given that it impacts 40% of the U.S. adults over age 30, that's a majority of the patients that we're seeing in our chair. So what this is going to do is you can use it any way you want. It's there if, hey, you know what, I have a quick question about, how do I communicate this to my patient? How do I communicate that to my patient? You can jump on real quick. You can use it on your own time. If you want to do morning huddles, that would be awesome too. I know, when I was leading my team of hygienists, any type of educational resources we had, we would actually have monthly hygiene meetings. So it was, hey, we have to watch this, this, and this. Then we're going to have a discussion about it. How can we implement it? Let's work together as a team. So it's really meant also for team building of how we can communicate confidence, things like that.
Now, I feel like some of the audience isn't using Orapharma products in their office. Do they need to be using Orapharma products to be participating in this?
No, they do not. So this is for everybody. This is for everyone that wants to maybe have a better understanding of how to communicate things. That's what this is for.
I love it. I love it. One of the things
we're here to support.
You are here to support. I love it. We're actually just having a conversation with another guest just right before you actually about the dentist hygienist collaboration, how we really need to be learning together.
Right.
Learn the same thing together. It's easier to implement. If I'm teeing up something to my patient and then doctor comes in and says completely opposite things, that's obviously, going against everything. And then patient's going to be like, you guys are so confusing over here. And who do I believe, right? If you're learning together, our patient, is going to be the beneficiary of that. One of the issues I do see though, and, I worked with your guys' team before about this, was hygienists are just not confident human beings. I have theories on it. I think it's from like the structure of the office setting and all sorts of other things. But how do we get hygienists to be like true leaders and talk with confidence about the things that our patients need?
Yeah, well, to start with that, having been here for the last few days, I see a ton of hygienists that definitely have confidence. But to square it up,
confidence or arrogance? Like where are we at with that one?
Hey, you know what? We went to
just
school
kidding,
for a long
hygienist. I know we're the smartest. Blah blah blah.
We are the smartest. But no, it's really, it's so exciting to be here, especially this year. I feel like there's just a different buzz.
There is.
Even from last year. Every event is great, but I just feel like everybody's engaged and wanting to learn and wanting to be a part of something, right?
Yeah,
so it really, the bond between a hygienist and their patient is a game changer. How many times does a patient come in and they're like, do I even have to see the dentist? Can't I just see you? I trust what you say. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You build that relationship with them. They trust what you say. So to your point earlier when you were talking about, is it really just, do you think it's the education that we didn't learn in school, or do you think it's more of just us not being able to communicate, that education? We know how to communicate it. Be confident about it. Talk about it. It's okay. If a patient says no, that's okay. But guess what? You can go home at night and lay your head on the pillow because you know that you talked to that patient about everything to get them as healthy as possible.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to build that confidence, that partnership between hygienists and patients, and just really get them comfortable and confident.
And the more you practice that, the more easy it's going to come.
Exactly. And sometimes it's just jumping in with both feet, like I'm just going to do it and I'm going to start. And then you'll be like, oh yeah, this patient is accepting. Oh yeah, this patient's understanding. Oh, this patient, it's a lot of times one person says no and we stop. But the more you talk about it, the more patients are going to say yes. And then you get
True.
excited about it.
And that one patient that you take some steps with, they might become ready.
Right.
Even the one that said no.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
want to keep talking about it every time.
I wish I could talk to you for like hours and hours, but unfortunately we're almost out of time.
Yeah. Yes.
And I wanted to just really quickly go over some of like the most jaw-dropping stats, the findings that you guys had uncovered.
Yeah. So it was really, really interesting. We went over, there were like 1,000 DHCPs that were surveyed. And what we found was, like this one, I never even thought of, like just coming from a hygiene standpoint, 42% of U.S. adults have periodontal disease. We know that, right? But only 16% report having it. So, I mean, it just underscores the gap in awareness around periodontal disease. How are we educating? 16% report having it, but that's because 16% understand that they have it. We've probably talked to everybody about it, but you know what I mean? They just don't understand it. So it's how are we communicating that? I would say, 64% of dentists agree that even when they tell their patients they have periodontal disease, patients don't take the necessary steps to prevent that disease from advancing. So to that point that I just said, we talk about it, they still don't want to take those necessary steps.
Mm-hmm.
But like you had just said, keep talking about it because eventually they might come around. So I would say also too, 91% of dentists and hygienists report discussing gum disease or gum health in at least half of their appointments, but only 62% of adults report having these conversations in at least half of their appointments.
Staggering.
That bothers me.
I know.
Like, I am such a good communicator. Why aren't you listening to me?
I know. So it's just, how can we ensure, and that's what a lot of the educational resources that we talked about earlier is just ensuring that we're having these important discussions. Patients are remembering it. They're understanding that we do care.
Yeah.
We want them to get as healthy as possible. So,
Well, and taking responsibility, how do we support? How do we get the dentist to see us as a provider? How do we help that patient understand? How do you want to wrap up this conversation and just give that little nugget to our listeners?
So I really think, it's a true partnership. And I think that the more confident you are, the more education resources that you have. There might be some dentists that just are going to say, hey, you know what my way's the highway, or, it's my way or the highway. But that's where we have to stand up for ourselves. And we have to say, hey, no, I know what I'm doing and what I'm doing is right. And we're going to get our patients as healthy as possible. So, I think things are changing. It's time to change. Now's the time to start changing.
Yeah.
And I think things are starting to turn, but I feel like hygienists need to be heard. And we are, and we will be continuing moving forward. So.
Yeah. Oh, man, I love it. I'm sure lots of people are going to have lots of questions, but maybe let's lead them to a website first. Where can they go find all these resources that you talked about?
Yep. So oracademy.com. That one, they can go and sign up for those educational resources. We also have orapharma.com, and then that can lead you to some other areas as well, other links on that page.
And then if they have questions for you specifically, how can they contact you?
Yeah, they more than happy to. Email's probably the best. So it would be jgiebel@orapharma.com.
Right. I'll put that in the show notes too to make sure that they have that.
So that they have the right spelling.
Link right through it. All right.
That sounds good.
Anything that we didn't cover that we have to absolutely say before we go?
I don't think so. I just want to say thank you both for everything that you do. I
Thank
think
you.
this is awesome. You guys are doing a great, amazing thing. And I just want to say, from a hygienist to hygienist, because we don't hear it often enough, we appreciate you. We are proud of you. We're doing the right thing and we're fighting the good fight.
Absolutely.
And so we're here for you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is a tale, oh yeah, a tale of two hygienists. So there might be only one, bringing the best of dental knowledge, and we do it all with ease. We cover oral health and screening, and preventing gum disease. We're gonna do a lot of learning, and have a little bit of fun working at the dentist. A tale of two hygienists.